This next story is a Skinwalker story, and it's from Moonlight Bay 129. It says, first off, I would like to remind whoever is reading this that all of these stories are 100% true and have happened to me personally. So there's no lying here. There you go, Christian. That's simple. Just like that, as you breathe into the microphone again.
I don't know what's up with that.
I don't know what's up with that either. But I think I did discover now who's been doing it. When we have guests on, I hear it. I'm like, who is breathing into this microphone? Well, like a game of Clue, I've deduced, since it's just the two of us now, must be you. Anyway, also, I don't know why, but I feel almost compelled to tell my experiences, and I hope someone can relate to them or get a kick out of them. I have had run-ins with skinwalkers on 3 separate occasions. Let me tell you, they are not easy to talk about, let alone write about, because just thinking about it gets me scared again. So I will tell you about the first time I ever saw one, which happened to be the first time I ever heard of one. First off, a little background about me. I live in Utah, and all the experiences happened while I was still living at home with my parents. I grew up about an hour outside of Salt Lake City in farming country, so I was raised on a farm. Growing up, I used to go hunting with my dad and brothers 4 or so times a year. So between hunting, camping, and growing up on a farm, I know my animals. Now to start the story, it was around 7 years ago in late October. I was 18 years old and my boyfriend, now husband, was 21. For the sake of being private, we'll call him Rob. Every damn time, man. And he's half Spanish and half Irish. That's an interesting combination. Anyway, one thing to note about Rob is he is a pretty big boy. 6 feet tall, 260 pounds, football star. He lived all the way up in Salt Lake, but he would still drive up every day after we both got off work to see me. He was a trooper. Well, one night he wasn't feeling too good, so he decided to take off a little earlier at 3 a.m. We walked out my back door to the front of the house where his car was parked. The moment we walked out the back door, the smell consumed us. It smelled like rotten meat. Rob commented that the, quote, country air stunk more than usual. I remember thinking that maybe a cow had died earlier in the day and we didn't know, but it smelled like it had been decomposing for weeks. When we got to his car, Rob threw this stuff in quick and got back out to give me one last hug goodbye. When something caught my eye, it looked like a skinny, bony dog that could barely walk. I remember thinking maybe it was a stray and I was going to shoo it away, but the way its body was shaped made me think it was some sort of coyote, so I kept quiet. I was sniffing around in my neighbor's front yard when all of a sudden it stopped dead. Oh, I was confused. Like, what a weird thing to do. It was sniffing around. Okay, much clearer now. It was sniffing around in my neighbor's front yard when all of a sudden it stopped dead in its tracks and stared directly at my boyfriend and I. Now this stare made the hair on my neck and arms stick up straight. You having some fun over there?
I'm done.
You good? Okay. It was like it wasn't just looking at me, but studying me almost. When all of a sudden it stood up on 2 legs and hauled ass into the fields behind my neighbor's house. When it stood, it was very tall and gangly, but it stood so smoothly, and when it started to run, you would think it was Usain Bolt. It was so fast, but oddly enough, I never heard its feet hit the ground. I grabbed onto Rob, scared out of my damn mind. I turned to him, but he was still watching it run away in horror. I whispered to him, "What the fuck was that?" His face went pale and he replied to me, "Hurry and get your ass inside your house, lock the doors, shut your blinds, turn your lights off, and call me." No questions asked, I started to sprint back into the backyard to the door, and when I got inside, I did as he said. I got into my bedroom, which is in the front of the house, top floor. I peeked out my window and Rob's car was already out of sight, so he must have burned some major rubber to get out of there so quickly. I have never dialed his number fast enough. He answered, asking if everything was okay and making sure I was fine and that I did everything he said. I again asked him what we had just seen. He told me he didn't want me freaking out, but eventually he gave up and explained to me what it was, saying, quote, "It was definitely a skinwalker." He continued to tell me that he knew because he had seen one before and was well informed on what they were because his Navajo friend was there the night he saw one for the first time too. His friend took Rob back to his house and his grandmother explained to Rob the Navajo stories behind them, what they were, and she also cautioned both of them to not go near them, don't think about them, don't talk about them, etc. Needless to say, we were both scared out of our minds, and we started to hang out in the city in his house rather than where I lived because it was such a bad experience. 7 years later, we are married now and living in the city. We don't talk about what happened that night unless it has to be talked about. And when we do, we both get pretty frightened. That's pretty, that would be a creepy thing to see for sure.
Yep. I would definitely go straight to the doctors and have them scan my brain.
To make sure that you're not losing your mind, of course.
Right.
Yes, because the idea of a skinwalker existing in reality, clearly impossible, correct?
It's pretty close to impossible.
You think so?
I don't think we have evidence of them. I mean, the stories are great. I love them. They're scary as hell. And I imagine if I was put in those situations, how terrifying that would be.
I was going to ask you if you witnessed something like this by yourself, would you consider that you had evidence for it because you witnessed it? But then I was like, no, he's going to say it's his brain, obviously.
No, I would first off say I would definitely not have evidence for it if I did see it, because that's not really evidence.
It is if you're the one that saw it.
That's still not, that's just...
That fresh in your mind, you're not saying that's evidence? Like you see something run off on 2 feet, looks like a weird, tall, gangly coyote, can't hear its feet, quick as lightning, and you're going to be like, I don't know if that was what I just saw or not, so it's fine. You know?
I would definitely come on the show. We'd definitely have to record something pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If I saw something like that, but that's still, seeing something is not evidence. That's just seeing something. Evidence, I think of more in a law way. That you need
in a law way, you say?
Yeah,
huh?
It's like you couldn't prove anything with just one person, maybe even two people seeing it.
Yeah, but the person seeing it doesn't need the proof because they've already, like, if I saw something like that and I was like, Christian, here's what's going on, man. I just saw a skinwalker run off in front of me. You'd obviously be like, no, you didn't, first of all. But to me, I don't need to convince you. I already know what I saw. Whether or not you believe it is irrelevant to the actual events that happened, you know?
I still wouldn't trust myself if I saw something. I would still do some other things to check it out. Maybe come back in the daylight and check the area that I saw it in and see if there's any evidence that can be found there. Yeah.
I will say that there are certain things that are terrifying that are completely natural. That is not one of them.
No.
But I will tell you an interesting anecdote that when I was a kid, you remember like old camcorders? They used to have like a photo button that you could push on them and it'd take like a photo of the video that it was doing. You don't remember that?
No.
That was probably a little after your time, but before all the fancy cameras that we have now. But there was this one time I was just testing the camera out. I was on my driveway in California City, set up the camera on a tripod, and it was just kind of pointing towards a house that was like kitty corner from us. And I remember I was like, in my head, I was like, I said a prayer or something that I wanted to see something crazy. I was like, just show me something crazy. And I pushed that photo button, and there was something in the middle of it was a white house, white garage door, and there was something dark standing in the middle of that garage door. And I had never grabbed anything so quick and just bolted into the house. I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't think it was gonna happen. I ran inside and I put it on my computer. I was uploading it, and when I opened it and zoomed in, you know what it was?
What?
It was a bird that had perfectly flown right in there, and the camera caught it dead center in that garage. But it looked like a Native American, like with the headdress on, like the whole thing. And so I was freaking out when I zoomed in. I'm like, oh, that's a bird. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, there are crazy things that can happen. And in the moment, you're like, paranormal. That's a supernatural event I just witnessed. Get out of here. Mine, I could prove within 5 minutes that it wasn't actually anything crazy. This one, all this took place. And it wasn't just like a brief, like something happened. Like, it was literally the guy watched it run away. So he's like cataloging this data in his mind as he's doing it. His brain is trying to figure out what it is. But he already knows because he saw it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because so we see a skinwalker. Guy sees a skinwalker at his girlfriend's house.
Classic.
Says, go inside. I'm leaving. Not very chivalrous.
That's, as I was reading it, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, damn, he didn't even wait for her to call. Like, she looked out the window, just a dust trail or something of him just flying down the road. Wow.
I mean, if he was a keeper or a potential keeper, he would have stayed there with her to make sure she was safe. True. Or taken her with him to make sure she was safe.
So we can't judge the relationship too bad.
I just did.
I know. I saw that. Yeah.
Also related to this, Have you ever heard of a flesh pedestrian?
I don't really peruse those types of websites, Christian, or those apps. Is it someone that is it a lady of the night that you're calling over?
It is
you
not.
getting lonely? Okay. Sure sounds like one.
This
is just my flesh pedestrian.
I'm going to go to the Urban Dictionary because Michaela at work just told me what this was. Okay. I was explaining when we did our Skinwalker episode, and she's like, oh, flesh pedestrians. I'm like,
is it like a shapeshifter?
It's an alternate name for a skinwalker.
So it's a skinwalker.
So yes, saying skinwalker aloud is said to bring unwanted attention from the entities.
Damn it.
Using flesh pedestrian allows you to discuss the entities without risking attack. I found it very fascinating. Michaela grew up in Idaho, and she uses flesh pedestrian. I was like, I cannot believe I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Or if I did, it didn't register. But now we know how to talk about them in the future without bringing their attacks on.
I don't know if I could ever call it that. It sounds too comical. And granted, I'm a boy that enjoys some good comedy, but that at the same time, I can't. Like, what if you saw one? You're like, I saw a flesh pedestrian. Everyone's gonna be like, okay, dude.
If I saw one and I'm like, if I saw a flesh pedestrian, thought of it, it might make me laugh. Therefore, I'd be safe from that. The skinwalker would be ridiculed and emasculated if that's a potential thing with skinwalkers.
Well, they do feed on your fear, so it's good that you wouldn't be afraid of it. They'd probably just be like, damn it, Christian, and turn around and walk away.
Let's go get the neighbors.
Or eat you alive, whatever works. Okay, this next one is called Account Number and All. And it's by Throw It, Amita. My mom and aunt used a Ouija board after their dad died. He had remarried, but had told his daughters that he was leaving them a few things in his will, including some money. His second wife was the executor. Oh, God, thank you. I was like, she killed him? It's fine. It's late. I'm tired. His second wife was the executor and was saying he hadn't left them money, etc., etc. Sorry, I can't remember exactly what she said.
But she lied, damn it.
Yeah, pretty much. Classic move. Anyway, Mom and her sister thought it was possible the money wasn't left to them after all, like the second wife had said, but my aunt was really strapped for cash, and they felt like it was also possible the second wife was withholding info and money. They apparently managed to get their dad via the Ouija board and asked him whether he had left them money in his will. It spelt out a 3-letter acronym for a bank and then a series of numbers. It turns out that he did have a bank account with money in it intended for his daughters. The account matched the bank acronym and account number. This one spooked me because the details were a surprise to Mom and my aunt. I don't know how they could have got that info out of thin air. Isn't that wild?
That's a crazy one.
That is probably the best Ouija board story of all time, just because it's just like this pissed off dad on the other side. Like, are you kidding me? Here's the bank. Here's the number. Anyway, I got to go disco dance with Jesus or whatever you do over here. That's, wow. What a story, man.
Why don't we have more stories from the Ouija board that are like that?
I honestly just don't think people are trying that. It doesn't come to their mind. Hey, let's ask for this guy's bank account number.
Also, evidence of demons, I'm going to say with this story, because the best way after the death of somebody to cause excess drama in families is the money that's left over. So maybe the demon is like, we're just going to make sure this family fights till the end of time.
There wasn't any money. They just gave him the account information anyway. Like, yeah, that's definitely yours.
Yeah, you're the second wife is definitely trying to steal your money.
Yeah. Wow.
And then all of a sudden, you got an episode of Snapped or something going on.
That does happen.
It was the Ouija board demon the whole time.
All right, this next one is called the Black Mass. Ooh.
Black what?
Mass.
Mass? M-A-S-S?
Yeah, not ass. I know you were hoping.
I thought it was math. M-A-T-H.
Wow. Yeah, the Black Math. That'll show him. It's pretty racist, Christian. Anyway, it's by Leedle, which I believe to be a SpongeBob reference. I've posted this before and had a lot of strange experiences in my life, but this one always stands out. I was walking with my buddies to another friend's house around 1 a.m. one night. We had been drinking a bit, but the night was young, and we were carrying on elsewhere, making our way down a long county road that was adjacent to some wide open fields that extended off into a distant forest. It was a clear moonlit night, and I remember feeling very clear-headed and enjoying the night air as we walked. As we walked along, I was casually drinking in the scenery, in a way you only can at 1 a.m. on a cool moonlit night, and looked off into a field. As I scanned the area, I noticed something extremely dark, maybe 150 meters away. While the whole field was practically shining with moonlight, with light cloud patterns throwing bits of shade, this thing was as black as could be. It looked like a massive obsidian, Vanta black, that was low to the ground. It was like something had an impossibly black blanket or shroud tossed over it, and it seemed to be very slowly moving in a drifting, shuffling kind of manner. I remember staring at it for 5 long seconds before I felt like I was jolted and realized I was looking at something very wrong. As the moonlight swept across the field and moved and the clouds played across the field, this thing was just there, looking like a total absence of light. Just pure blackness, shuffling slowly and low to the ground. I watched it with shocked fascination until we walked past the field and I lost it. I felt like I was too stunned to say anything, and only brought it up when we got to my friend's house. All my friends ribbed me and laughed at me, and said I was skunked, seeing shit in the dark, and that I didn't see anything. They didn't even let me describe what I saw. I pretty much got out that I saw some fucked up shit in the field, and they were like, leave it alone, man, we don't need that tonight. A few minutes later, my friend's then girlfriend came over to me and quietly said that she saw something very strange too. That she saw something very, very black that looked incredibly strange and out of place. I told her I saw the same thing and thanked her for making me feel sane, and we never ended up talking about it again. Now when I think back about it, I'm like, what could that have possibly been? Some kind of alien with a cloaking shroud? A night or forest spirit just spooked out in the fields? I just can't think of anything to describe it. The whole field around it, in front of it, behind it, was lit with bright, sweeping moonlight, and this thing was completely and utterly black like a void. What the hell was it?
It's a portal.
Now, wouldn't that be some shit? That'd be dope. Would you jump in it?
I'd probably go closer.
Would you stick your? Well, what would you stick a hand in there?
No, I'd throw stuff at it.
Really? Wow.
Come on, man.
I know, but
even if you don't believe in this stuff, you gotta be cautious.
Yeah, but the curiosity alone, man.
Yeah, I'll pick up a rock, throw it at the thing, and see what happens. Be ready to run.
What do you think? Like a demon's just gonna pop out? Like, who threw that? You know? And they're like, oh shit, he's on to us.
No, I'm going with portal still.
Yeah, but a demon pops out of the portal? I don't know.
Or a Sasquatch.
A Sasquatch, yes, of course. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think, and this is a question that I ask myself a lot more frequently than anyone should ever ask them, and it is, do you enter a portal if you see one?
No.
I see, that sounds like the right answer, but then there's a part of you that's like, yeah, but what if you just like put your face?
That's the same part
just
of you
enough, like Jack in The Shining. Just
yeah. That's the same part of you that speaks to you when you're on the edge of a cliff way up high, and it says,
yeah, that's the call of the void. This is the call of the portal. But see, like, I mean, granted, if something was terrible and you just stuck your face just far enough to see, with your eyes to see it, and it was bad, it would just eat your face off, then that's not good either, you know?
What if your face was transported to a new dimension, but not the rest of you?
Pinky. Just a pinky.
Yeah, you could live without
just
that.
Like kind of,
that's how you do it.
Just feel around and they're like, what's going on in here?
Or your phone on the end of a stick.
See, now we're cooking with whatever people cook with. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be an expensive loss when it ends up in the other dimension, but
yeah, you go to AT&T, be like, hey, so my phone is irretrievable in a cosmic void. Is there something you can do about this? They say, well, you can stop doing drugs and get out of AT&T, sir. You know?
No, they'll say, well, let me show you the newest iPhone for over $1,000 that will sell you.
There you go. Please don't lose it in a cosmic void.
No, please do. We sell
another one. Portals aside.
What do you think it is?
Because the description is just not that great. It's hard to tell. Like, it's just a blacker than black mass that is shuffling low to the ground.
This is what happens when you're young and you drink the equivalent of Mad Dog 2020. It's the lead or whatever, and it makes you hallucinate. I don't know what they have.
I was like, what the hell are you drinking, man? I don't know. Like, the description, shuffling makes me think some kind of creature. But blacker than black, just like a tear in time and space. I don't know, man. It's hard to say. And the fact, like, I mean, when I first read this, I was like, oh, drinking, here we go. Let's see what they saw. But when it's kind of also, unless the girl, like the friend's girlfriend was just trying to like get with this dude too. I was like, oh, I totally saw something too. Let's have an affair. And you're like, oh. Well,
I saw
okay,
my attraction to you from across the room.
Oh, yes, you too are into weird entities and fields, huh? Well, here I come. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a better explanation for it, but like the description alone, hard to pinpoint, man. Could just be a random shadow person. Could be a demon. Could be a random person in black.
Blacker than black is not natural.
It's not, especially when the description of the field itself was very bright from moonlight. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so even if it was a person wearing black, you're still getting some kind of refraction of the moonlight itself. But yeah, who fucking knows, man? Honestly, who knows? No idea. No idea. Y'all can sound off in the comments. You let us know what you think this thing is. Have you ever seen a
flesh peddler? Wait,
a flesh peddler? Now that's a streetwalker, Christian. You pervert.
What was the name I used?
Pedestrian.
Flesh pedestrian.
Good God, flesh peddler. How do you like that one? Can't even put that on a T-shirt to be funny. People are gonna think you're a pervert.
Yeah, that's a definite Freudian slip.
Oh, unless I put it on your
food for thought.